Since I switched from the Fujifilm X100F to the X-T30 Mark II and now to the XS20, I have 5 lenses for my Fujifilm camera. My lens collection is a bit strange, so today I want to talk about all of them. I'll rank them from best to worst based on my experience and share which one or maybe even 2 I'm going to sell. If you're interested in seeing my Fujifilm mount lenses, stick around. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and let's get into it. First, I'll talk about each lens in the order I got them, and the first Fujifilm lens I got with my X-T30 Mark II camera was this kit XC 15-45mm lens. When I got this lens, I didn't have high hopes for it because I knew it was pretty cheap, but instead of $200, it cost me only around $100, which I thought was a good deal. If I didn't find it useful, I could sell it for $150 and even make a few bucks. But it turned out this lens was quite useful and I used it a lot. I made a full video review about it and I will link it in the description. Basically, for its price, it's a great and versatile lens. Yes, it's quite dark and I didn't enjoy its power zoom feature, but it's very compact for its focal length and has optical image stabilization, which was handy since my X-T30 Mark II camera didn't have in-body image stabilization. Even though it feels and looks cheap, I took it on all my trips with the X-T30 Mark II camera and used it more than any of my other lenses that I had with me. For street or travel photography, I prefer to use a zoom lens because it provides various focal lengths at once. In full frame equivalent, the 15-45mm is around 24-72mm, which is very versatile and useful when you're running around and shooting things that are closer or further away from you. Although recently I started to feel that it's a bit lazy to use a zoom lens instead of a fixed lens. Using a fixed focal length can give your photos a more cohesive look, but with a fixed focal length I sometimes stress that I might miss some shots because I can't zoom in or out quickly. I need to rethink this aspect. Let me know in the comments what you think about this topic. Do you use a zoom or fixed lens for street photography, and what focal length is your favorite? I hope your thoughts will help me make some conclusions on my side. Now onto the next lens I got, which was the Fujifilm XF 27mm f2.8 lens. I got it almost right away after buying X-T30 Mark II because I wanted a compact setup similar to the X100F I had before. I also made a full review video about it and I will link it in the description. Basically, this lens is perfect for me when I don't feel like shooting much. Instead of using my zoom lens, I pick the small pancake lens and take it with me, keeping the camera around my neck just in case. If I see something interesting, I might take a shot. If not, I just carry my camera around my neck and that's it. Being lightweight, this lens is a perfect match to my X-T30 Mark II camera. Both are not heavy, so you can easily wear this kit even as an accessory without any need to shoot at all. I'm kidding, of course. Who are we? Hipsters that buy Fujifilm cameras just for the looks? What a nonsense! On an APS-C sensor, the 27mm lens equates to a 40mm full-frame equivalent, which is great for me. Sometimes 35mm feels a bit too wide and requires me to step a bit closer than I'd like to, so 40mm fits my needs well. Overall, the lens performs great optically and I didn't have any issues with it. The only downside is the focus motor, which is too loud and maybe a bit slow at times, but the image quality is great, and maybe I should get the newer version. Both versions are the same optically, but the newer one has weather sealing and an aperture ring. Not that I need the aperture ring so much, but the overall look of the lens with the aperture ring is much better than without it. Sorry, I don't know why I keep talking about the look so much, like some hipster. Maybe it's the matcha latte I drank in the morning? I don't know. By the way, I highly recommend using, for example, UV lens filters to protect the front element of your lens. Some photographers disagree, saying an extra layer of glass might affect image quality, but if you're using a good lens filter, it won't be a problem, and in my photography career, UV filters have saved my lenses a few times. Recently, K&F company reached out with an offer to test their lens filters. A few years ago, I bought and used their black diffusion filters for my wedding photography kit, and I was happy with them. This time K&F sent me two black diffusion filters for my Fujifilm XF 18-55mm lens. They come in nice cases that hold the filter securely. I also got to try a magnetic lens filter system for my Sigma 35mm f1.4 lens that I use with my Sony a7 III camera. It is a simple yet clever system. You screw the magnetic ring onto the lens and then attach the filter to the ring. As a bonus, you get a magnetic lens cap, which is convenient. The setup doesn't add much bulk and you can easily swap between different filters. They also offer a lens filter pouch that can hold up to 4 filters and can be attached to your belt. If you are interested in buying lens filters or other photography gear, visit the K&F website using the link in the description. Use the code you see on the screen to get 10% off your purchase. Thank you K&F for sending me these lens filters to test, and let's get back to the video. The next lens I got was the Yongnuo 50mm f1.8 Pro. I received it to make a review video, but I couldn't because it had some internal damage. The lens didn't focus properly, sometimes it would focus for a few shots then stop, and I had to shake it to make it work again. Obviously I couldn't review a broken lens, but I managed to do a street style photo shoot with it, which I'll link in the description if you want to see some sample images. If we ignore the focus issues, the lens is built quite well. However, it's quite big and heavy, which makes it more demanding than other compact lenses. I wish I had asked for the non-pro version, which is smaller. I doubt I would have been disappointed with its image quality. Also, Viltrox recently released a 57mm f1.7 lens, which is compact and in full frame equivalent, about 80mm instead of 75mm with this Yongnuo lens. I'd prefer that extra 5mm, as I sometimes like to shoot from a distance. An extra 5mm would help. Another issue with this lens is its aperture ring. The ring is very smooth and doesn't click at all, which might be good for manual focus, but it's easy to change the aperture by accident. There is a switch to lock the ring, but for some reason, maybe due to the internal damage, I couldn't adjust the aperture with the camera dial that's supposed to do that. The dial works perfectly with all my other lenses, but not with this one. So to change the aperture, I have to unlock the ring, then change the aperture, lock it again, to avoid accidental changes. If any of you own this lens, please share if this is only my problem due to the internal damage or if you have it too. Also let me know what other problems you have faced with this lens. In conclusion, if I want to shoot from a distance, this lens lets me do that, but I need to deal with the broken autofocus. Another lens I got for review was this TTArtisan 27mm f2.8 lens, which is a cheaper alternative to the Fujifilm 27mm lens. I made a comparison video between these two lenses, which you can find linked in the description as well. The TTArtisan lens is great despite being a bit bulkier than the Fujifilm lens, but it has better and quieter autofocus. The main thing to note about this TTArtisan lens is the significant vignetting on wider apertures. While some say it's easy to remove vignetting in post-processing, I found that it can be hard to remove at the widest aperture because it's so strong. However, I don't think it's always necessary to remove the vignetting because it adds a certain character to the images. We use film simulations with our Fujifilm cameras to make images look and feel vintage, and the vignetting fits well with that style. Personally, I don't like vignetting all the time, especially with some film simulations or in modern environments where it doesn't fit the overall feel. But if you're on a budget and want a compact fixed lens, the TTArtisan 27mm lens can be a great option, especially if you enjoy the vignetting effect in your images. The last lens I got was the Fujifilm XF 18-55mm lens that came with my X-S20 camera. At first I thought I would sell this lens because I already had the more compact XC 15-45mm lens. I figured I could get some money back by selling it, but I started using the XF 18-55mm lens more, and now I prefer it over the XC 15-45mm lens. Yes, the XF 18-55 lens is big and heavier, but it's better built, looks nicer and has a wider aperture at 18mm f2.8 compared to the XC 15-45mm f3.5. I do lose 3mm on the wide end, but I gain 5mm on the other end, which I prefer because I like shooting from a distance. The 3mm loss on the wide end isn't a problem for me. This XF 18-55mm lens also has optical image stabilization, aperture and focus ring, a zoom ring and two switches for stabilization, and the aperture ring. I use used this lens on my trip to London with the XS20 camera, and my first impression video is linked in the description. The overall kit is a bit heavier compared to the X-T30 Mark II and XC 15-45mm lens, but I get a bigger battery in body image stabilization, a few extra millimeters on the telephoto end, and better build quality and looks. Now I'm thinking, is it time for another matcha latte? What do you think? Now I need to rank the lenses to determine which I like the most and the least. I will start from my first lens to the latest. XC 15-45mm lens. I would put this lens in the C tier. Its main advantages are the price, optical image stabilization and size. However, it feels cheap, has a generic look and isn't built very well. Even though I enjoyed using it, it's far from an ideal lens. Fujifilm XF 27mm lens, this goes into the A tier. Honestly, I could even put it in the S tier, but I wish it had better autofocus and f1.8 aperture instead of 2.8. But overall, if I had to keep only one lens out of all I got, I would pick this one for sure. Yongnuo 50mm lens, this goes into the C tier. If it worked properly, I might put it in the B tier, but not higher because it is much bigger and heavier than other options on the market that are more compact. TTArtisan 27mm lens, I will put this in the B tier. To rank it higher, I wish it were as compact as the Fuji 27mm lens and didn't have such strong vignetting. But with those improvements and this price, it might even go to the S tier. XF 18-55mm lens, I debated where to put this one. Definitely not in the S tier because it has a variable aperture instead of a fixed f2.8 like a similar Sigma lens. Should I rank it lower because of its size and weight? It also has optical image stabilization and aperturing and more, so I will put it in the A tier. It would be perfect if it had a constant aperture of f2.8. So yeah, that's how my Fujifilm lens tier list looks. I mentioned I will sell at least one of them, and it's probably going to be the Fujifilm XC 15-45mm lens. It is very similar to the XF 18-55mm lens, but the XF 18-55 is much better in every way, even though it's bigger. There's no need to keep two very similar lenses if I always prefer the XF 18-55. Now, while making this tier list, I'm almost convinced, but not 100% yet, that I might keep the Fujifilm XF 27mm lens and sell the TTArtisan lens. I still need to decide if I want to lose the vignetting character of the TTArtisan lens. It would be strange to keep both lenses, or I might sell both and buy the newer version of the Fujifilm XF 27mm lens. Share your thoughts on what you would do and which lens you would keep. And there you have it, my slightly strange Fujifilm lens lineup. I had 5 lenses in total, but after this video I will shrink that number a bit. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Share what your favorite lens for your Fujifilm camera is and which lens you would definitely put into the S tier. Let's discuss everything in the comments. Thank you for your time. Don't forget to leave a like and hit the subscribe button so I could see you in the next one. For now, stay positive, have a nice day and keep shooting.